Hi, I'm Les Gould. Thank you so much for signing up for my newsletter. As a special treat, I'm going to read for you the chapter 1 to my new Monster Hunter novella, The Lost Peterson Apostle. It's about family coming home, dealing with some inner demons, dealing with some outer creatures and demons. It was a lot of fun to write. It's a little on the darker side than some of the other stuff in the Bubbaverse, but I really hope you enjoy it. The Lost Peterson Apostle, Chapter 1. The air brakes on the Greyhound bus gasped, and a large featureless brick wall, overcast by a brooding sky, greeted me through the window, as if my sullen mood jumped up and painted the picture for me. After 4 years in the Army, I still loathed my home as much as the day I left. Not that Amsterdam, New York, was my hometown, just the last stop on the way. I hoisted my pack onto my shoulder and trudged down the steps into the beginning of an early spring rain. The cold drizzle soaked through my high and tight and trickled down my face and runnels. I ran a hand through my hair, casting off water like thumb over bristles of a toothbrush, and crushed the cap in my hand, refusing to put it on. The rain felt right. A ghastly old pickup truck with fender wells made more from rust than metal idled in the parking lot next to the last feeble remains of a gravel-encrusted snow pile. The snow pile looked to be in better condition. Through the cracked windshield, I could see the shadowy outline of my old man, Paul Peterson, sitting behind the wheel. I took 2 long, deep breaths, weighing my options, and almost decided to hike the 40 miles to the farm in the rain rather than get in the vehicle with him. But that would only postpone the inevitable fight. Better get out of the way now, when my mom and siblings weren't here to witness it. I climbed into the cab without a word and stood the pack up between us as an ineffectual barrier we both honored. He shifted the truck into gear, and we lurched out of the parking space. Once we passed the city limits, the truck picked up speed along the backcountry roads. The cab remained silent, except for the low thrum of knobby wheels rolling on blacktop and the screech of worn-out wiper blades, unable to completely clear the windshield. I watched the trees and telephone poles fly by my window for the first 20 miles or so, before the silence finally beat me into looking at my old man. Several day-old beard uncharacteristically shadowed his face, though the sun-baked creases still showed. He wore an unbuttoned, worn-out red flannel shirt over a long-sleeved waffle net with frayed cuffs, and I could see yet another T-shirt through the top 2 undone buttons. Even with all those layers, he still seemed cold. I felt like I should say something, anything, but for the life of me, I didn't have a clue what to say. Instead, my eyes drifted back out the passenger window, searching for inspiration in the passing empty cornfields, but they spun by unhelpfully. After a few minutes, I chose to be the bigger man and break the wall of silence. Unfortunately, the word came out with the civility of a wrecking ball. Well? Well, what? Angry currents carried a deep, gravelly voice across the distance between us. I shook my head and fogged the windshield with a billowing sigh. 4 years. You'd think we'd have something to say to each other by now. His dark brown eyes broke from the road long enough to glare at me with that same detestable hardness as the day I got on the bus to basic training. But I saw something else in them now. Something I've never seen before. Something I could only describe as pain. The deep emotional kind of pain that consumed a man's heart and soul, though I never knew him to own either. It only took my youngest brother Johnny committing suicide to bring it out. It pissed me off. He had no right. You have to care for someone before you can mourn them. And my old man never cared for any of his kids, especially Johnny. I couldn't bear to see it and turned away first. Better the blur of empty cornfields than his feigned pain. How's Mom holding up? I asked. You have to ask her yourself. She's not speaking to me. I considered asking about my other siblings, Mark, Luke, and Mary, but the questions wouldn't form, and I'm not sure I wanted to know my old man's thoughts about any of them. Instead, I stared out the window, wondering if I had stayed and looked after my little brother, would he still be alive? My chest tightened at the pain, and I felt tears welling up in my eyes despite trying to will them away. It ain't your fault, he said in that no-nonsense, get-over-it tone I always hated. I spun. It was the closest thing to a kind word I can remember him ever saying to me, and I hated it. You're right. It ain't my fault. It's yours. My old man jumped on the brake with both feet. The tires on the truck locked up, skidded along the gravel road. The back end fishtailing as it kicked up stones and mud. Still in gear, the engine sputtered and then stopped with a cough. His open hand flew across the cab and caught me across the face. "It ain't nobody's fault except Johnny's, and you better realize that, son." "You never gave a rat's ass about Johnny or any one of us, you fucking hypocrite," I spat back at him. He wiped the spittle from his face with his left hand and took another swing at me with his right. This time, I caught his wrist in an iron grip forged by 18 years on the farm and 4 more in Uncle Sam's infantry. I squeezed, feeling the bones in his wrist shift under the pressure. The fire filling his eyes couldn't compare to the inferno burning inside me. "You will not hit me again," I growled. "And you won't strike Mark, Luke, Mary, or Mom again. Do you understand?" "You best let go of my arm, son," he replied in tight, restrained fury. "Let go of my arm and get out of my truck. Find yourself someplace else to stay tonight. You're not welcome under my roof." I threw his hand back at him and snatched my bag from between us. "I'll walk the rest of the way, but you're not going to keep me from seeing my fucking family." I unbuckled and threw open the truck door. Its hinges squawked in protest, but I put enough behind it that the door bounced off its limits and came back at me. I stopped it on the rebound with a stiff arm and slid off the seat. The rain fell in sheets, driving the cold spring air through my uniform. I didn't care. "You best not show up at the house, son. I shoot trespassers," he growled out the open passenger door. He started the truck and threw it in gear, spitting gravel at me as he drove away, the momentum slamming the door for me. "Fuck you," I yelled at the retreating taillights, flipping him the bird. The truck disappeared around the corner and left me staring down an empty road with nothing but the cold rain to quench my anger. I turned the other way. The dirt road faded into the mist of rain between fields and trees. I decided to shelter under a nearby long needle pine tree, trading fine driven rain for large fat droplets shaken loose from the canopy above. I rummaged through my pack until I found the parka and threw it on. The light browns of the desert camouflage stood out against the green and dark brown landscape around me, but the parka repelled the rain as well as a duck's back. After another look up and down the empty road through the shroud of my hood, I still couldn't gain my bearings. The fog of rain hid the Adirondacks. I felt lost in my own backyard. Thank God for cell phones. I pulled out my phone and thumbed the sensor. It blipped to life, but my bargain basement service plan didn't get enough reception in the boondocks of New York to even query the great Google Oracle. On a prayer, I opened the Maps app and a blue circle about 5 miles wide covered the map from the last point the phone pinged a tower. The raindrops collecting on the screen smeared as I zoomed out the map. Fuck. Paul had dropped me off a good 10 miles from home. The long way. With a growl, I considered the hayfield behind me and the woods beyond it. Less than 5 miles by the way the crow flies, except I'd be slugging it through heavy grass, and underbrush, and woods. Giving the barren road another glance, I weighed hiking through rough terrain against the odds of actually stumbling upon someone willing to give me a ride home in the middle of bumfuck Egypt. Shit, I spat into the rain. Pulling a cheap dollar store poncho from my pack, I wrapped it over my pack in a life hack my first platoon sergeant taught me years ago. A smirk half threatened to chase a scowl from my face as I remembered life hack day and the many uses of duct tape, condoms, and tampons that earned my obnoxious hormone-hyped adolescent ass a blistering punishment session I'll never forget. The pack thumped on my back and drove the moment of mirth away in a puff of breath. Careful not to catch my clothes on the barbed fence wire, I hopped the fence and started walking through calf-high, soaking wet pasture grass without leaving more than the bent grass as a directional marker. Paul wouldn't send anyone back for me. Like most of upstate New York, the woods at the other end of the pasture led to a small field, then to another wood, and so on. The rain pattered on my parka as my steady, monotonous stride swallowed the ground in front of me. It gave me time to cool, and I soon regretted blowing up on Paul like I did. It wouldn't bring my brother back or make his funeral any easier. But I couldn't stand being in the same room with a man, let alone the close confines of a truck cab. Not too far in the third wood, an itch crept into the space to my shoulder blades, like hungry eyes following me through the trees. Stealing a glance over my shoulder, I saw nothing in the raining gloom, but just like Afghanistan, I knew they were there. I could feel them lurking behind the trees or hiding in the branches, getting ready to pounce on me. Veering to the left, I spun around a massive oak tree big enough to be a little brother to a sequoia to check my six. Nothing moved, and and only the sound of rain falling through the canopy above filled the silence. No crunching of leaves, no snapping of twigs. The itch turned into an icy chill running down my back. I surveyed the ground clutter around me and found a broken limb as big as my arm and hefted it. Too long to wield effectively, I swapped it for one a bit smaller, that I could swing one-handed if I needed to. Glanced around the tree once more. The woods remained still. Then I saw a shadow move between the trees. Too low to the ground for a man, but big enough to move the brush 2 feet to either side. I stepped around the tree and made myself as big as I could and roared a challenge, slapping my improvised club against the tree, trying to make enough noise to scare the beasts away. It didn't work. A black head larger than a basketball lifted in the air, and yellow eyes stared at me from 100 paces away. I hollered one more time, hoping to convince it to find somewhere else to go. It reared up on its hind legs, and I about shit my pants. Granted, I've never seen a black bear other than at the zoo, but I didn't know they could stand 10 feet tall. I turned and ran. By the sound of the crashing brush behind me, I needed to run faster and kicked it up a notch, silently thanking my drill instructors for all those force marches with 100-pound rucks they made me do. The ground beside me dropped away to a ravine, and an old survival memory from my teens came to me. Something about bears not running so well downhill, and I decided to jump over the edge. I certainly wasn't going to outrun it on flatland. I splashed across the creek at the bottom and scrambled up the mud hill on the other side. My boots slipped, and I couldn't find anything to grab onto. I fell face first, eating the mud as I slid back down to the bottom. The bear roared from the top of the ravine behind me before plummeting down the slope after me without any of the promised fumbling on his shorter front legs. Howling my own war cry, I readied the club in my hands and took the charge full on, swinging the club into the beast's head. The branch broke in a shower of splinters, and 500 pounds of black fur slammed me into the hillside, leaving a man-shaped imprint in the mud. As the breath left me, I knew my family would be bearing more than one son this week. And that's the end of chapter 1. So please go check it out. I'll give you a little hint. It's already on pre-order if you want to look it up on Amazon.com, in ebook format. So please go check it out. I hope you enjoyed the reading of the first chapter. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for being one of my people who signed up for my newsletter. Encourage others to do the same. Please feel free to share it. I really appreciate you all signing up. All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you a little later.